In this example, we need to construct a 98% confidence interval for the difference between the means of the numbers of items sorted by light and heavy users of marijuana. So let's start by finding the critical value. We have 98% confidence, so there's 98% in the center. That leaves 2% left over to be split among the tails, so 0.01 in each tail. The smaller sample size is 64, so the degrees of freedom is 63. Using table A3, you should find that the critical value is 2.390. Now we can find the margin of error. The formula for the margin of error is the critical value times the square root of the first standard deviation squared divided by the first sample size plus the second standard deviation squared divided by the second sample size. Let's substitute in the numbers. The critical value we just found is 2.390. The first sample standard deviation is 3.6, and we need to square that. The first sample size is 64, plus the second sample standard deviation is 4.5. We need to square that. The second sample size is 65. So now we need to figure out where we need to round the margin of error. The confidence interval we want rounded to the same number of decimal places as a sample mean, which in this case is 1 decimal place. So the margin of error we want to round to 1 decimal place beyond that, or in this case 2 decimal places. So working this out and rounding to 2 decimal places, you should have 1.71. Now we also need to find the difference in the sample means. So the first sample mean minus the second sample mean. The first sample mean is 53.3. The other sample mean is 51.3. So when we subtract, we have 2.0 or 2. The formula for the confidence interval is the difference in the sample means minus the error. In the center, we have the population mean 1 minus population mean 2. On the right side, again, we have the difference in the sample means, but this time we have plus the error. So let's substitute in the numbers. The difference in the sample means is 2.0 or 2 minus the error of 1.71. On the right side, we have 2.0 plus 1.71. So do the subtracting, do the adding, and keep in mind that we want to round to 1 decimal place, just like the sample mean. So the left side, you should end up with 0.3, and we do have a label this time. It would be items, is less than the first population mean minus the second population mean, is less than, and on the right side we should have 3.7 items. You can watch the viewlet to learn how to find the confidence interval using your calculator. Now a couple more questions. Does the confidence interval include 0? And your answer to that is no, since both numbers are positive. Number 2, what does the confidence interval suggest about the equality of the 2 population means? Well, since 0 is not within the interval, it appears that there is a significant difference between the 2 population means.